Tuesday night. Good evening. Time for our Tuesday Worship Express. I am in the library again, but different angle, different background. I like it in here. It's nice and cozy. So we have just completed our first full week of school and into a rhythm. So it feels good. Lots of sports and activities that my kids are doing and things at school that are keeping us busy. So youth group has started back up, and that's always an exciting time. And we're making some changes to our youth room, so that's even more exciting. So I will keep you all posted and updated on those things to come. Tonight, we are talking about who do we seek approval from? And we talked about this a little bit on Sunday night at youth, and I'll share a little bit of that in a minute. But for the most part, I was reading an article in one of those psychology magazines, and it says most people have an inherent desire to feel safe and secure. And human behavior revolves around this need to capture that sense of physical and emotional security. I know I feel that a lot. If I feel safe and secure, then I feel happy. If I feel like things have lined up and I have approved people in my, or gotten the approval from people in my life that are important to me, then I feel safe. I feel like things are good. And on a deep level, feeling approved makes us feel secure as a person. And we have this huge inner peace when we feel good about who we are or about who somebody thinks we are. So keep that in mind. And from an early age, we are conditioned to seek the approval of our parents, which is a good thing. Definitely you want to do that as a young child. But when the opposite happens, let's say we don't get the approval later in life that maybe we have felt really safe and secure with, then we begin to doubt our personal growth. And we also touched on this Sunday night with our youth. We talked about the negative self-talk that happens if we do not get the approval that we are seeking from our circle of people that are in our lives. So on Sunday night with our youth, this group of people that young people are seeking approval from are parents, of course, teachers, coaches, friends, significant others, and believe it or not, strangers on social media. And that is probably one of the biggest. It wasn't the first one mentioned, but it was probably one of the biggest when we talked about our lives and how our focus can really get taken off course when we allow social media to take over and seek the approval of these people that we don't even know. So I want you to be encouraged, though, because in 2 Timothy chapter 2, verse 15, it says this: do your best to present yourself to God as one approved, a worker who does not need to be ashamed and who currently handles the word of truth. So to break that down just a little bit to help us understand, yes, we want to satisfy the expectations of our bosses and our parents and maybe our significant others and our coaches and our teachers. We do want to satisfy those expectations. But in Timothy was to view his work for God in the same way. And that's where I think we kind of get off course a little bit, because we are seeking the approval of these outside people that, yes, are important to us. But as Christians, it can make us lose our focus on what is really important and seeking the approval of God and living our lives in the fruits of the Spirit that we've learned about all summer. And this world can distract a Christian's focus like none other that I've seen. It can throw us into these moments of self-doubt, and that's a hard cycle to come out of, especially now, and especially with our young people who, not so much right now, but over the past year had at some point been cooped up at home or quarantine. You know, that's a big word that we know all too well these days. And they can draw our attention away from God and focusing more on seeking the approval from others. And so although those approvals can be very important to our lives, we have to make sure that we are seeking God's approval first, and that we are serving in the way that he's called us and asked us to serve. But not lose focus of what's important by making sure that the expectations that we have set for ourselves from our boss or our teacher or our parents or our coaches, those things are good and they're important to keep us on track, but they're not more important than what God calls us to do. So I want you all to remember one of the first people that we learned about in the Bible in the book of Genesis, and his name is Noah. I know you know who I'm talking about. And the story of Noah and being called to build this ark for these animals to keep them safe during this flood, I can't imagine being called to do something like that and being so obedient, not understanding why, trying to get your family on board with doing it, but seeking God's approval and doing it anyway is one of the most amazing things about pieces of this story. It just baffles me. But he did it. And his family really didn't understand why he was doing it. And they went along with it. But my point is, he had a call. He was asked by God to do this. He did it. He was obedient. He answered the call, and he was seeking God's approval. And I think he got it. This makes me think of a story that I heard recently, and some of you may have heard this as well. If you listen to Caleb, you may have heard this story. There was a teacher in Louisiana. She was a very young teacher, early 20s, and there was this 4th grade student that was causing her to question her ability to stay in the teaching field. He was troubled, he was defiant, he was a problem for her every single day, to the point where she questioned whether she wanted to stay in education. And she had a dream one night that God spoke to her and told her that she needed to adopt this boy. His name was Jerome. And she woke up that morning and thought, that's really funny. That's not going to happen. And when she got to school that day, Jerome came to class, and the first thing he said to her was, "Can I come live with you?" And she kind of took a step back and thought, that's really interesting. I don't know why you would say that, but no, you can't come live with me. And then 2 or 3 days later, Jerome's mom with his 1-year-old brother came to the classroom and said, "I can't do this anymore. I need you to take these boys from me. I can't be a mom." And so she knew at that moment, this was God placing this on her heart to adopt these 2 boys. So she spent her entire savings on attorneys, and over several months was finally able to adopt them. And to this day, I believe that Jerome is 24, maybe. He's in his mid-20s. Jace, the younger brother, is in middle school. And she is still teaching, and she is raising these boys, and she is getting ready to send Jerome to college. This is a true story. You can look it up. You can read all about it. But we talked about this on Sunday night, and if we ever feel like those forces around us are causing us to doubt ourselves or to doubt the love that God has for us or the path that he has for us, we don't need to doubt that. And Scripture has it right here telling us that we shouldn't be ashamed of the things that we are doing for God, the work that we're doing for God. And we seek no one's approval but God's approval. So again, I'm not saying not to seek approval from parents, teachers, and coaches. Those are good things. But number one, above all things, God's approval is what we need. And this story of this teacher in Louisiana just gives me hope and faith in humanity that people who do listen and are called by God, sometimes it's in a dream, sometimes it's through another person, sometimes it's through Scripture, through a pastor. We never know when we're going to be called. But the important thing is to listen, to be obedient, and to know that God is not going to call us to do something that he's not going to equip us to handle. And he gave her the instruments that she needed to make sure that these boys were taken care of. And so I love this story. So I want to encourage you with that. If you are feeling down, or if you are feeling like you just don't know about the way things are going in your life, if you are feeling like you're doubting yourself, negative self-talk, it needs to stop. Because God does not want us to feel that way. He has given us the fruits of the Spirit, and the greatest is love. So love yourself and love your neighbors and your family. And I just want to remind you that next week, I don't think we'll be live, but it will be published at 7 o'clock on Tuesday. Bo and I will be sharing more conversations about marriage and about different topics than what we covered in February. And if you remember last week, I mentioned the movie Fireproof. If you want to have a chance to watch that, that would be good. And then the book that we are going to be using for our conversations is called The Love Dare. So I hope that you're able to join us, whether it's watching later, a couple of weeks, we'll be doing it live, but it will be here. So I hope you all have a great week. Thanks for being here. And as always, I love you guys.